Today, we have Eva with us. She is the co founder of Scripe, which is an all in one personal branding platform. But before she co founded Scripe, she tried many hats on. She was in sales, she was in event management, she was a hostess, she was in IT as well. She was also a travel blogger. Throughout this time, one thing has stayed consistent, and that is she has always been a content creator, which is something we're going to dive into later on. But for now, Eva, it is a pleasure to have you here and welcome to the Founder Lore podcast.
Thanks for having me here. Like, super exciting for this episode.
Love that. So, Eva, let's jump into it. I suppose you've been a travel blogger and you've traveled all over the world, right? And at the same time, you've amassed over 20,000 followers on Instagram. So you've built a community around you as a travel blogger. My question is, as a kid growing up, was this always the life that little Eva wanted to travel all over the world?
Not really, actually. I think like when I was a small child, I always wanted to be like a lawyer. So I thought like it's super cool to be on court and to just like having really nice discussions there. So like 5 years old Eva always wanted to stay in their country and wanted to become a lawyer. I think, and also like how I started creating content was not with the traveling. It was more like I was documenting, or like I actually started as a food blog. So I was really
Okay.
documenting some recipes and also what I did. But from time to time, I got bored about cooking and I got like more interested in the traveling. And I think I did my first like big travel when I was 18 and I was flying to Bali. And
Wow.
there I was already like taking my community on board. I was telling them when I was afraid, I was showing them my moments, I was showing them how I was exploring stuff. And then that was the first time I realized that people are more interested in that side of me and like just like being authentic and talking about what I do and exploring nice places. And that's how, or that was the point when I transitioned into that area.
Oh, wow. That is interesting. I didn't know that you were into food blogging in the beginning. So, throughout your life, you've put many hats on, right? You've been in sales, IT, you've been a reporter, hostess, and seems like you've tried to find your passion right from the start. Which brings me to my question. You recently posted a photo on Instagram about Scripe's launch event, and you wrote, "For me, it's like I've finally found my ground." Do you feel like it's finally time that you've actually found the one thing that you've been searching for this whole time?
Yes, actually, like, yeah, that's true. Because or like when I started, I was more doing like social media management. I was more like being in like a content creator role in agency roles, like doing more people management. But since I also studied ID, I always had I always wanted to build a product as well. And I always wanted to do
Hmm.
something which is scalable. And I always wanted to build a solution like a millions of people can use or even like can spread around it and like have this value moment. And I didn't know until I started doing a SaaS and until I was shipping a product that this is something which fulfilled me that much. And on our launch event, I just did this like welcome speech and I just told them, hey, it's super cool that we are here, but we would not be here without any of you because it was basically our beta users joining this event. And they were the ones who
Hmm.
were giving us feedback, who were even trying out our product when it was absolutely shit. And they were believing in us and they helped us to shape this thing. And when I talked about this and I was looking into these eyes, and then so many people said, hey, it's so crazy. Like I use it on a daily basis. I just like it enables me to share my content. I really felt like, hey, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to build something which really solves a problem, which makes a lot of people happy, and which I can scale to even help really millions of people and not just doing it like maybe just by myself or spending my time there because the impact is like way higher if you're like building a SaaS. Especially like that's my feeling, and that was why I wrote this sentence
Hmm.
because it was like I felt like, hey, like that's actually the thing you are made for.
I love that. And I think the fact that you were building a community even before, like way before Scripe, like with your blogging, do you feel like that aspect of community building and the reason why you felt at home with Scripe and SaaS is because you realized that something that I was doing in my past life, I'm still doing it, but in a much larger, impactful way?
Yes, absolutely. Because I think what makes me the most happy, or also what I like the most on like blogging and documenting my journey, where people who say like, "Hey, it actually helped me what you shared," or "Hey, can you help me with this and this?" Or they started a discussion or said, "Hey, it inspired me to also look for like different places, or also to, I don't know, study IT or to start my own
Mm.
business because I saw that you do it, so I can do it too." And I never like had the plan, so like I built a community. It was just like the community we were building because it was just authentically sharing and engaging and like really taking care of the people. And I mean, I
Yeah.
really care about everyone who is using Scribe. I want that they feel empowered and they feel the same spirit as we do. And I feel like that is something I realized from early on, that I get energy when I'm in contact with people and when I can inspire and when I can take people on my journey. And I think that's also the main point why Scribe is so successful. It's because from day one, we were bringing people in and we told everyone, hey, we are all on eye level. We just want to have your opinion and we need your feedback. And we're like super open. And until now, I'm always open for feedback. Like everyone can write me on LinkedIn and they will get a message, they will get a reply. And I will take their feedback like as super valid and I will discuss it. And I think people feel that when it's just like not just like loose words, when it's like really action behind it.
Yeah, and this is exactly how we connected on LinkedIn as well, right? We had a conversation
Yeah.
about Scribe. We jumped on a call because you suggested it. There was feedback, and I think that
Yeah.
makes it so wonderful. But I'm curious, Scribe wasn't your first co-founded venture. You've been a co-founder multiple times before. Why do you think none of them really stuck, but this one did?
I think like it's normal. Like I think as an entrepreneur, you start a lot of things and most
Mm.
of the things don't work out. So I think the first thing I ever started was like a jewelry store online. So I made handmade jewelry in Austria
It
because it
was
was COVID.
sustainable jewelry, right?
Yeah, it was sustainable jewelry.
Yeah.
And it was just a trend in America, and I just did it on in Austria. And back then, I really actually just wanted to build a Shopify shop. So I really wanted to learn how to build a shop and how to do it. And I thought like it's a super cool idea. At the end, like we didn't have the product people like really needed or wanted. And
Mm.
but one thing I did very well back then was I already built a community. So already around this jewelry line, we had like 5K followers on Instagram. We had a
Oh
community
wow.
where people like purchasing it, but also our logistic and our margin, like we did not plan it that well, so we didn't make any profit at the end. So things I learned there was that community building is important, but you really need to calculate if some people really
Mm.
want your product and what is your margin. And that also actually was bringing me into the direction of like founding a social media agency, because I already made it possible to build like a community or build like an audience for this jewelry shop. And I was knowing that I can do it for other companies too. And even some companies reached out to us and asked us, how did you do that on Instagram? How did we start it with these Reels? Because Reels was also new. And then we got our first client just by promoting or doing our own business, but then like making this part really good and knowing that we can do this part. And then we just did it for other businesses as well.
Interesting. And the second venture that you co-founded, I think, if I'm not wrong, you raised about 200,000 euros for it. Is that correct?
Yeah, we did some public funding for Relay,
Okay.
but it was more public grant, not like like from private
Like a
invest,
proper
like
VC.
angels. Yeah.
But do you feel like that has any role if you, for example, you're, let's say, raising for Scribe? Do you feel like, did you learn anything from that that you could potentially apply to this?
No, it's something different. It's like if
Really?
you get grants, but what I learned is like, I mean, public grants, you just send in some applications and then you get money from the government. And if you get money from individual, it's like a different like way. But it already teach me that there is step one. Like when you do something, you at first look like what public grant is available and what free money you get. And I think this is
Mm.
something I then always applied, because for Scribe, before we found, we looked on what are public grants we can use maybe before even founding a company, because some people do the mistake that they found and then they see, hey, there a lot of like there's like free money available, but it would be available before I found. So then they are delayed and don't get this like free money which is around. And especially in Germany, you can get a lot of like grant money where you don't have to give away any equity.
Mm.
Um, but now I'm learning the first time how to fundraise, and I know it's differently, but it's also cool to learn. So I always try to do new things to really like learn new stuff I can then apply to different things.
Yeah, it's interesting. And you've been documenting your journey on LinkedIn for quite a while now. And when it comes to Scripe, you and your co-founders, how much
Mhm.
of your presence on LinkedIn do you feel like helped build this community or this awareness for Scripe?
I actually think like nearly 90% of
Oh wow.
95% of our website traffic, of our awareness, of our opportunities comes from LinkedIn, because basically all our beta users came from LinkedIn, all our first customers came from LinkedIn, all the creators we are now working with are
Wow.
coming from LinkedIn, the inbound is coming from LinkedIn. Now, I mean, it's getting a little bit less because we also do some SEO, and
Okay.
also I go to some events. So also events is like it's a cool place, especially if we want to attract larger clients, like who have multiple seats. But I think at the end it was actually the cheapest action we could do because we all post 3 times a week. It's and we're using our own tool, of course, but
Yeah.
it's something which is so easy to do, but it has so much impact because it's like your whole target audience on a silver plate just on like LinkedIn, and you just have to spend it, and you have no other platform where it takes you like 10 minutes to write a post and then reach, I don't know, 5,000 people. Like it's actually insane, and I think it's like a no-brainer to just do it. And we just learned that from early on. That's why we, like, from the beginning we were all posting 2 to 5 times a week just
Hmm.
to get this noise out and to make sure that we are all popping up.
Wow, I love that. And a lot of founders are still sleeping on this, right? They feel like, yeah, they could be posting on LinkedIn, but they're hesitant because they feel like they don't know where to start. In your experience, when you started promoting your personal brand and then ultimately promoting Scripe as a byproduct, did you face any, when it comes to content, any problems in the beginning, any confusions, some things that you felt like, you know what, I'll figure this out with time?
Hmm. I think in the beginning it's normal to be lost. Like, I mean, nobody, and it's unrealistic that you at the beginning make a content plan and then
Yeah.
you know exactly what your perfect strategy is for the half of the year. And it would be also super stupid to do that because you have to learn from your audience. Like, of the most important factors is learn from your audience, learn what they are interested in. Because I think one mistake is that you start and you think like where I am good at and what do I want to talk about. But it's more like,
Mhm.
what does my audience want to hear? Because at the end, I do it because I want to be present. I want to have leads. I want to get opportunities. But if I just talk about stuff which is super like unimportant for my audience, and which is like, which I didn't thought about it, then I will also not getting any reach or attraction from my target audience. So I think first step is sitting down and thinking about what do I know which can help others, and or which can help my target audience, and making a list of all of the stuff where I know that you're good at and you can help other people. And
Interesting.
then I clustered this actually in different topics. So
Okay.
I was knowing that I'm good at processes. I was knowing I'm good at personal branding. I was knowing at different stuff, and then I clustered where I'm good at in different buckets. And then I started with like posting in these different topics stuff I was knowing. This is like actually how I started and how I did my process. And then I learned from time to time which are topics people are interested or where there is no
Yeah.
interest.
I love that. And for somebody who is creating or starting to launch a B2B slash B2C SaaS,
Mhm.
right? How important was it to get feedback specifically for your product, your SaaS product, in terms of documenting your journey? Because you get live feedback from your people, right? And even if
Yeah.
it's like getting on a feedback call, like we did in the beginning, just so that you can get info about Scribe as a target audience. So, how important was that?
I think it's 10 out of 10 important, to be honest,
Wow.
because you cannot build a product for people if you don't talk to people. Like like main learning, like you can build a product for yourself, which is super cool, but probably nobody else use it. And if
Yeah.
you really want to build a product which people need, then you have to talk to people. And the easiest way to talk to people is if you're going in front and you're screaming, "Hey, I'm now building this product and I want to do this and this. Who wants to come with me on this journey?" And if you talk about why you're doing something. So, for example, I recently explained why we don't have a free trial. And I got so many
Mm.
responses because people are really curious about it. Because sometimes you just see a product and then you're like, why do you don't have it? But you don't know it. And I'm just talking openly about why we make some decisions. And then I get immediately feedback because people, I just take them on my journey and they feel like, hey, they are part of it and they really want to be part of it. And from the early beginning, we were just documenting what we are doing. And then people thought like it's cool and I want to help these guys because I know something I can help because they were knowing where we're standing and what our problems are. And I also openly shared my failures and I shared my learnings. And I know that by this, I just build up this community because they felt like we are talking day to day, even if we did not talk at all, because they were just like, I just give them so many informations about me
Yeah.
and where I'm standing. So they feel like they're already familiar with me without knowing me. So they're more likely to just help or to just spread Scribe because they know really what stands behind.
Love that. You almost built a one-to-one trust line with your target audience, right? Each and every person feels like they're a part of your journey, which obviously helps massively in building trust. But I understand that it's hard to promote a business on LinkedIn through your personal brand if you only talk about a business. Your personal brand helps you build trust, as you mentioned, right? Which ultimately helps the business as well. For you, how did you find that right balance between creating content that is not too business related, but at the same time not too personal so that people get confused?
For me, it's like I have these four content pillars. So
Okay.
I have one content pillar which is like personal stuff. But when I talk about personal stuff, I always make sure that it fits to the place where I'm right now. So
Mm.
personal stuff is for me, for example, talking about my failure with my jewelry startup. That's a personal post because it doesn't have to be, it does not contain something with my current startup and it's more personal story. Or I can talk about mental health because it also is affecting me my day to day and it's sometimes there and I'm sharing my learning. But I would not share something about my dog or I don't know, something which is not like in any relation
Yeah,
to where I'm
entirely
standing.
irrelevant. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always make sure that it helps people to understand why I am the way I am, to build more trust because they understand why I'm seeing things this or this way. So this is my personal pillar and this is stuff I share. And I also
Mm.
have this internal pillar where we're talking more about team dynamics, how we work as a team, what is behind the scene, actually to also attract some talents who want to know how is it working at Scribe and also to build some trust because people know, hey, we're doing this sprint planning, we're doing this in this way, just to show how to build a company, but it's also not in your face about Scribe. And the only bill I have is like, I don't know, 30% or 25%. Like today, I just posted a video how you can turn a podcast into then LinkedIn
Mm.
posts using Scribe. This is like a super promotional post, and I just do it like every fourth or every fifth post. It's important to get some leads, but if I would just post this stuff, people get bored. So I
Yeah.
just try to find the balance between in your face, but also the other stuff is about Scribe, but it's not this super direct. It's more like a story, and I'm more inspired, and I really want to read more because it's interesting and not this in your face promotional content. So it's super important to have
Yeah.
this split. Otherwise, you're losing follower because nobody's interested in just like, hey, please buy my product. Hey, please buy my product.
Yeah.
Hey, please buy my product.
Yeah, I absolutely love the breakdown. And I think a lot of founders or people in general are going to listen to this and they'll be like, you know what? If I do create content pillars for myself, I think I'll find content creation easier, right? I have
Mm.
one last question for you, Eva, before we move to the last section of this podcast. That is, how do you stay consistent, right? A lot of people, they think consistency is 7 days a week and we don't have to skip a day no matter how good or bad the posts I have to post. But in reality, and the founders that I work with, consistency can look different for each and every person, right? What is your perspective when it comes to being consistent on LinkedIn?
I think like the best tip ever is to find a content buddy or to find like somebody who helps you to
Mm.
stay responsibility. Some people pay an agency, some people pay a ghostwriter, some people have a good friend. It's just something which where you like also money wise or time wise or you just commit to doing something and it's not the only person like it's not just
Mm.
yourself who is committed to something and for me just like I have Carmen as my content buddy and how we do it is that we just have this blocker every week where we sit down half an hour and I ask her questions, she asks me questions, and we turn these answers into content. And it just helps me to have this fixed blocker and to have her to not skip it because otherwise I think I would also sometimes deprioritize it because I don't know,
Yeah,
there are events, I'm tired. I think 1,000 other things are important. But from the beginning, we said we're not skipping this blocker. And this is like my number one thing, which really helped me at the end to stay consistent because it's way easier if you have somebody you can do it together
love
than
that.
if you have to do it alone.
Yeah, it helps you keep accountable. Thank you. I mean, that was really informative. And I think a lot of people are going to learn from what you
Mm.
just said, and they will be inspired as well, which is exactly what we want. Now, to the last section of the podcast, Ava, is a rapid fire round. I'll ask you a series of questions, six or seven. You'll only have to answer in 1 or 2 sentences. Okay? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So the first one is one piece of advice you wish someone gave you before launching Scripe.
Monetize super early.
Interesting. Second one is what would be Scripe's name if it wasn't Scripe?
That's super hard because I'm super uncreative. Maybe then it would be content audio or something.
Love that. No worries. What is the harshest feedback you've received in your life and how did that change you?
You're super small and you never say your opinion.
Wow. When was the last time you felt like walking away from the entrepreneur life?
When I worked for the Tyrolean government and did some IT project management.
What is the worst advice you've received as an entrepreneur? Something that you feel like does not apply to the entrepreneurial life?
You're just you have to just work 40 hours and not doing over hours.
Okay. What is the biggest personal sacrifice that you feel like you've made to be an entrepreneur?
Not having so much free time and always like being more in my head and not feeling that free.
Now, on to the last two questions. What is the one thing that you wish you could tell your younger self about the struggles ahead?
Always still stay true to yourself. You are more worth than you think, and never ever make yourself smaller than you are.
I absolutely love that. The last one is this is a tough one, okay? If you had to choose one as a co founder, would it be Christoph or would it be Carmen?
I think you would never get an answer to that.
I love
There's the
that.
objective one and the emotional one, but I think I need both to be complete.
Love that. Thank you so much for the answers. And I'm sorry to put you on the spot for the last one, but I had to do it. But yeah, I think this has been super informative and we got a nice little look into your personal life as well at the same time, because I feel like a lot of the times founders are so heavily scrutinized for the expertise they bring to the table. Nobody really knows who the person is behind it. So I think that is going to be something the audience is going to relate to. And at the same time, your expertise and you've been building in public for over a year now, I think. And for people who are hesitant, when they listen to how you approach your journey in the beginning and now, I think they're going to learn a lot from it. So thank you so much for being here, Eva.
Thank you for having me.